Walter Wyatt, an airline flight engineer, was flying solo from the Bahamas to Florida in his twin-engine Beechcraft. But here's the thing. His navigational equipment had been stolen in Nassau, leaving him with only a compass and a handheld radio to guide him. The skies began to darken as Wyatt flew over Andros Island, and his compass needle continued to go haywire. He was concerned that it had thrown him off course and that he needed to find a landmark to get back on track. So, while flying at just over 1,000 meters, he noticed waves crashing over rocks that he mistook for part of the chain leading to Bimini. He followed them north, but Bimini was nowhere to be found. He didn't know where he was. That's when Wyatt made a desperate plea for assistance. "Mayday, Mayday," he said as he turned on his radio. Fortunately, a Miami-bound Air Jamaica jetliner responded and relayed his distress call to the U.S. Coast Guard. However, due to the thunderstorms, it took the Coast Guard's Falcon search jet nearly an hour to locate Wyatt. Finally, Wyatt noticed the white and orange jet emerge from the clouds. However, his right engine was sputtering, and the night was approaching. The Falcon commander, Lieutenant Stephen Blankenship, assured Wyatt that they would get him down safely. Blankenship explained that K-Sal had an emergency landing strip and motioned Wyatt to follow. Blankenship told Wyatt to hold on as they flew low over the white-capped sea, noting that they were only 10 kilometers from the landing strip. But then, tragedy struck. Wyatt's right engine failed, and his left fuel tank ran out, causing the other engine to fail. The Beechcraft was now heading straight for the water. Wyatt exclaimed, "I'm going in," as he lowered the flaps to slow down. Lieutenant Stephen Blankenship, the Falcon's commander, watched in horror as the Beechcraft's lights hit the water and vanished. He quickly banked the plane and flew low over the area, but discovered nothing. A nearby Air Force C-130 transport dropped a parachute flare, but the Falcon crew saw no signs of life or distress. They had to conclude that Wyatt had died. Mike Flaherty, the co-pilot, tapped the fuel gauge and noticed that it was dangerously low. They turned toward Key West, Florida with heavy hearts, knowing they had done everything they could. Wyatt's head slammed into the instrument panel as the plane hit the water. The plane bounced and then crashed into the sea. Wyatt grabbed 2 flares and climbed onto one of the plane's wings in a panic. He pulled the tags on his life jacket to inflate it and looked out to see a Coast Guard jet approaching. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, he smashed the ignition cap of one of the flares in the hopes of being rescued. But, to his chagrin, the flare went out. The second one he tried crumpled in his hands. As he stood on the wing, he felt it sink beneath his feet and the plane's nose pitched down. Within seconds, the plane plummeted into the sea, leaving Wyatt alone and adrift. Wyatt was in a precarious situation. He'd taken sea survival training and knew he should conserve energy, but after 30 minutes at sea, he was shivering and his legs were cramping. And to make matters worse, he knew he would be nearly impossible to spot from above, hidden in the waves. So he decided to swim in the direction he thought K-Sal was. The sea, on the other hand, had other ideas. Violent squalls churned the waves, and Wyatt was disoriented and losing hope within an hour. And if that wasn't bad enough, the left chamber of his life jacket was softening, indicating a leak at the seams of the inflation tube. The tube then broke loose and the chamber collapsed, as if mocking his efforts to stay afloat. Wyatt was able to fill up the chamber again by blowing into the hole where the tube had been and sealing it with his finger. But his situation was becoming direr by the minute. As he rode the chilling waves, Wyatt was fighting for his life. Despite the blood dripping from his brow and the risk of attracting man-eating sharks, he was determined to live. Wyatt knew that giving up would mean certain death, so he continued to fight. Then Wyatt calmly and methodically prepared his life jacket to carry his final wishes to his loved ones. He carefully removed an airline identity badge from his shirt and scratched a message onto it with his watch strap. "Trish the house," said the message. He hoped that whoever found the badge would realize he was leaving his Florida home to his girlfriend, Trisha Lansdale. He etched a code on the other side of the badge, 143 MDJWT. It was a code he used to express his feelings for his mother, father, daughter Jennifer, son Walter, and girlfriend Trisha. Even though he was divorced and his children were living with their mother in Tennessee, Wyatt's love for his family remained strong. Wyatt set his sights on survival after securing the badge to his life jacket. He looked at his watch. It was 8 p.m. He set the number 10 as his survival goal. "I can make it to 10, he told himself. Wyatt's optimism faded as the night progressed. He was all by himself in the vast ocean, shrouded in darkness, and constantly in danger from predators lurking beneath the surface. Then, just before 10 o'clock, he felt something bump against his feet. Undoubtedly a shark. Wyatt prepared for the worst, but the shark did not attack. Instead, it vanished into the depths, leaving Wyatt to wonder when it would appear again. Wyatt set a new goal for himself as his survival instincts kicked into high gear to make it to midnight. But it appeared that fate was conspiring against him. The life jacket on which he had been relying was now leaking, and the inflation tube had come undone. Wyatt reinflated the chamber and plugged the hole with his finger, struggling to keep his head above water. The storm raged around Wyatt as he struggled to survive in the open sea. The rain fell on him, providing much-needed relief to his parched throat and stinging eyes. He looked up at the stars twinkling above him through a break in the clouds, hoping that one of them would take him to his final resting place. Lieutenant Blankenship, on the other hand, was fighting his own battle in the skies. Blankenship had just refueled in Key West and was on his way back to Kay-Sal to look for Wyatt. However, the storm was so intense that visibility was nearly impossible, and the risk to both aircraft and crew was too great. Blankenship had no choice but to turn back and resume the search in the morning with the assistance of a Navy helicopter. As the exhausted swimmer drifted in the sea, he couldn't help but imagine the dawn skies filled with search and rescue planes looking for him. But as the hours passed and midnight passed, he realized he had to hold out until daylight. A jolt on his feet sent him into a panic. Another shark. He kicked the predator and yanked his hands away from the life jacket with lightning-fast reflexes. Water flooded into the holes, submerging him 1.5 meters below the surface. Despite the dire circumstances, he managed to keep his cool. With his mind telling him to stop and get your head together, he lunged towards the sinking life jacket, grabbing it before it slipped away. He came back up to the surface, gasping for air, and grabbed the limp jacket. With scissor kicks, he moved forward. To keep his body afloat, he repeated the float and kick sequence for nearly an hour. He finally managed to calm himself and reinflate the chambers of the life jacket, despite being exhausted and battered. He rode the waves with his body on top of the jacket, timing his movements to conserve his strength. As he surfed toward the dawn, he clung to the hope that he would survive this ordeal. He scanned the sky as the sun rose over the horizon, desperately looking for a plane, but all he could see was a vast expanse of blue. His optimism faded until he lowered his gaze to the sea and noticed something that sent shivers down his spine, a dorsal fin cutting through a wave. Then there was a thump on his elbow. He yelped as he twisted away, only to see a second shark's yellow-gray hide slip past him. The sharks were circling, ready to strike. A huge bull shark charged at him as he floated in the sea, aiming for his legs. In a moment of quick thinking, Wyatt drew up his leg and slammed the heel of his tennis shoe between the shark's eyes, causing it to surface 6 meters away and begin circling. 2 additional bull sharks pursued Wyatt, but he fought them off with frantic kicks. Even a hammerhead shark was unable to outrun him, as he used a swift kick to avoid the shark's snout and crush its fin. As if things couldn't get any worse, Wyatt noticed a blue pointer shark, capable of reaching speeds of up to 150 kilometers per hour and breaking the surface with its metallic blue tail. Wyatt braced himself for an attack, watching as the shark thrust its head out of the water, its lifeless eyes fixed on him. The shark thankfully vanished as quickly as it appeared, but Wyatt knew he couldn't relax his guard. He was exhausted and weak, and he was afraid that any sign of vulnerability would draw the attention of the pack. The pack would go crazy if he allowed that first bite. The distant roar of an aircraft then drew Wyatt's attention. He quickly turned his gaze to the sky and noticed a Coast Guard jet circling in a search pattern. Even as the plane approached, Wyatt couldn't help but feel frustrated as he waved his orange life jacket in an attempt to attract the attention of the rescuers. "Why don't they see me?" he cried, frantically waving his arms and arching his body out of the water. The plane finally flew overhead after what seemed like an eternity. While searching for the wreckage of the Beechcraft, pilot Blankenship noticed something in the water. It was a man waving a life jacket, half buried in the swells. Blankenship quickly fixed the position on his computer and radioed the nearby Coast Guard cutter, the Cape York, which was only 12 minutes away. After dropping a smoke canister to guide the cutter, Mike Flaherty noticed Wyatt swimming for it. But there was a huge dark shadow behind him, and it was a shark. Blankenship immediately radioed the cutter, warning them that a shark was circling the man and that they needed to get moving. Wyatt couldn't take his gaze away from the silver glint of the canister, but he couldn't help but wonder why they hadn't dropped a life raft. He let out a sigh of relief when he saw a white boat coming through the waves toward him. A collapsible ladder was lowered down the side as the Coast Guard cutter Cape York approached. Wyatt grabbed a rung but found himself too weak to climb. In the midst of this, a voice exclaimed, "Hey, throw away the jacket." But Wyatt, still attached to the orange life jacket that had kept him alive, mumbled a response. "No way. It follows me wherever I go." And just like that, Wyatt's incredible ordeal was over. He was finally rescued after a 15-hour swim. His emotions took over as he collapsed onto the deck of the Cape York, and he kissed the rough surface beneath him. It was a moment of pure relief and gratitude. Flaherty and Blankenship were beaming with pride and happiness from above. All of their efforts paid off spectacularly. Blankenship couldn't help but smile from ear to ear as he witnessed the dramatic rescue. "This makes everything worthwhile," he said. Wyatt was taken to a hospital to be checked over, and then he finally made it home, where he was able to spend time with his family. Overwhelmed with emotion, he sat with Tricia for hours, still in disbelief that he had made it through such a harrowing experience. And as he finally drifted off to sleep, his trusty orange life jacket lay by his side, a powerful reminder of the incredible strength and resilience of the human spirit. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked what you saw, be sure to check out the other great content on our channel. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to bring you more. Thank you again, and see you in the next video.